the average age a survivor discloses abuse is 52. So when a child discloses abuse, it's actually really, courageous and rare.
Hello and welcome to our GiveSendGo podcast. We're so glad that you're joining us today. You're in for a treat. We have with us today Seak. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'll do as short of encapsulation as possible, but I'll start with this. My dad is from Cambodia, and he escaped communism and genocide in the 70s. And we immigrated here as refugees. So I came here as a 3-year-old refugee to California, which is where we end up settling. And that's where I grew up and went to school. And my family was not the successful immigrant story that you hear a lot about. We struggled a lot. My parents, till this day, don't speak much English. I grew up on welfare and food stamps. I grew up in South LA during the height of the gang war in the 90s, and growing up in the housing projects. So my upbringing was very much, poor. And then luckily I was, my parents instilled a lot of strong values in me. And so I understood the American dream and what it stands for and the opportunities that are in front of me. So took advantage of that. So we've done really well for ourselves. My husband and I, we're high school sweethearts. We got married right after school. We have 3 wonderful children. We're now residing in Arizona. We left California 3 years ago because of all the craziness and everything else and the extreme tyrannical government that is California and what we're seeing and unfolding in front of us. So that's a little bit about, my background. But, in going into what we're going to discuss today is that I have been fighting child sex trafficking and been an advocate for children and survivors for almost 15 years now. So that's where my heart really lies. I am really passionate about protecting the innocence of children.
Well, that's amazing. And first, before we hop into this Hope Box project and the cool things you're doing in this fight for our children, a cool fact, and I didn't know this about you when we started talking, is that my daughter is in Cambodia and has been living there for the last 2 years as a missionary, teaching English in
Oh,
Cambodia.
very
And
cool.
we
I love
actually
that.
took our family to visit her at Christmas. So I went to
Mhm.
Cambodia this past Christmas and heard all about the genocide, which was absolutely incredible. Like I didn't know about that. I didn't know
Mhm.
that that had taken place. And so to hear that your parents were able to escape and that you were able to come to the US is an amazing story in and of
Yeah,
itself.
I think yeah, it's weird the synergy of things like this, right? You find out little tidbits, but I think one thing I want people to understand is if they are curious to learn a little bit of Cambodian history, it is probably one of the most extreme versions of communism that you will find, even more extreme than China and some of the other countries. So yeah, so it was a very dark part of our history. The country almost 50 years later is still reaming from it and still trying to recover from it. So yeah, so I'm very passionate about that as well. I do a lot of work in
It
anti-communism,
was, yeah,
education, and things like that.
it was really interesting to not see the older generation there. You
Hmm.
know, being there, I was probably one of the old, like the old generation, like
Yeah.
people my parents' age weren't there, right? Like
Hmm.
it was just, I was like, wow, this shapes culture in such a way. My daughter, working with the youth and people in Cambodia says like just even some of the mindsets because of all that that country has been through,
Hmm.
is just, it's really interesting and she loves it there. She loves the people.
Yeah.
But she does see like how a country is trying to recover from
Hmm.
the history that it did have. But I know
Yeah.
we're not here to talk about Cambodia. I just thought that was a cool little
That is.
connection.
Yeah.
When you think Cambodia, it's like, oh, I just went. Um, anyways, you found your way to Give Send Go. And you started a campaign, and if anybody wants to view it, you can click the link below, or you can just go to givesendgo.com/hope box. Now, Give, Send, Go, our whole mission here is to share the hope of Jesus while people fundraise. So I love that in your name of what you're doing is you are also wanting to share hope, but with a little bit of a different mission. So tell us a little bit about the Hope Box, how it got started and things like that. And the Mom Army. I like the idea
Yeah.
of a Mom Army, being the mom of myself.
Sure. So 2 years ago, I was really outraged about the attacks on our children that I felt was coming from every direction. There was something happening in this country that wasn't what I was experiencing years before. And I quickly gathered all of my, friends and colleagues across the country that I've been working with, over the years in protection of children to start this Mom Army. And it took off immediately. I mean, I started getting messages from all over the world, the moms in Ireland and the UK and Canada and Peru and Spain and, and New Zealand saying that they're dealing with the same things. And so it quickly morphed into this fierce group of warriors. But just to give you a background, we're a survivor-led organization. So more than half of the moms in our group that are our leaders are survivors of child sexual abuse, and even a few that have been trafficked. So that kind of sets us apart from a lot of the other mom groups that are out there. And our main focus is to end exploitation, especially, child sexual abuse and the trauma around that. And so last summer, about a year ago, we had a team meeting. And one of our chapter leaders, this was something that was impacting her family. Her niece by marriage had disclosed, she was 11 at the time, had disclosed she had been sexually abused by a 14-year-old older cousin. And the reason why she disclosed right away is because she has an 8-year-old sister that she was worried he was going to start abusing. And the reason why I share that, that's really incredibly brave and rare. The average age a survivor discloses abuse is 52. So when a child discloses abuse, it's actually really, courageous and rare. And from there, we felt, that this child was going to have to start dealing with the trauma that comes with that type of abuse. She wasn't being supported by the family. There was a lot of, things that were going on that the family was trying to sweep it under the rug, and there wasn't any reports to the police and any charges being filed. And so we came together to kind of find a solution, like what can we do to help this child? And the Hope Box was born. We realized we had all these amazing experts and people in our group that could contribute to this box. So essentially the Hope Box is a care package that helps a child start their healing journey. So there's different modalities, exercises, things that they can do to really help them navigate the feelings and the loneliness that comes with this type of abuse. And so we have anything from poetry from one of our survivors of trafficking. She's a licensed psychologist. We have contribution of affirmation stickers. We have, crystal little fidgets because touch and feels becomes a thing. So we talked to a lot of our moms who are survivors and asked them what would they want in a box if this was available to them when they were going through this as a child. And that's how the project was born.
So a question, with the age being really like older, grown up, kind of worked through some of the, it's not my fault, and now you're 52 and you realize you were abused and this was wrong, and you are not as ashamed, you're still maybe embarrassed, but like you're old enough to like kind of put some framing around it. And that's where people tend to come out and say, hey, this happened to me. How are you encouraging children to speak about it for these hope boxes when they're younger? Is there a way that you're saying, okay, how are you going to get the boxes to the kids? How are you going to try, if the age is 52 or a grown up, how are you, is there ways to facilitate these discussions and things like that?
Well, it's really interesting. Since the idea came about a year ago, it's been unfolding in really amazing ways. So we produced a video, and the video is directed towards the child. So the messaging in the video from a lot of our survivor moms and even other members of our group is to talk directly to that child, to give them encouragement, to let them know that there is an army of moms that will be there for them. So that's one campaign that we're working on getting the message out there. We are trying to partner with a family advocacy center, a child victim advocacy center here in the Phoenix area, and they do incredible work. Where everything is under one roof. What people have to understand about child sexual abuse is that it's re-traumatizing to have to keep telling what happened over and over again. And this facility does everything under one roof. It's a collaboration of multiple agencies, 4 police agencies, including Maricopa County Sheriff, the DA's office. There is a health screening to gather evidence. There is detectives on site to do the interviews and make sure that there is evidence gathered in case it goes to trial. There is therapy. So there's play therapy, EMDR, all sorts of different therapies. So what I love about what the center does is they serve this population. So that's what we're working on in terms of partnering with an organization that serves this population, so we can just provide the boxes for them, and then that would be handed over to the child that comes through the center.
Oh, that's great. And so, yeah, so here's children that are being,
Yeah.
They have spoken up and now are finding the treatment, whether it's counseling, things like that.
Yeah. The one thing I should say about the center is the intake of the children that comes through the centers are the ones that report to the police. So there is a report generated from the disclosure.
So you're going to start with this center. Is your goal to eventually be partnered with centers around the globe that you're like, okay, we're working with this life crisis center over? I was a foster mom and an adoptive mom. And, there's a life crisis center near me that I could bring the kids to, the foster kids who had been through severe trauma and abuse. And, they would do all sorts of therapies and play therapy, art therapy, all sorts of things like that. And I'm sure in every community, there are probably centers that deal with children's trauma, and sometimes specifically sexual trauma. So your goal is then to start with this partnership and kind of figure it out.
From there. Yeah. We'd love to work with sheriff departments and police departments, because if they're going out for phone calls to address a victim that has just disclosed, we'd love to work with police departments and have these boxes available to them. And definitely, with other centers across the country. We'd love for this to grow. Our hope is that it will grow to multiple centers and agencies. But we're starting small. We're starting here. Our goal is to start with 100 boxes and then, just kind of grow from there. Yeah. And hope to get the word out so we can get more support and more sponsorship and more donations.
Are you a 501c3 yet?
We are not. And that is actually on purpose. Sadly, the issue around children has become hyper political. And for that reason, we have chosen not to be 501c3, because then it would really hinder us in speaking about these issues. Yeah. And especially because we do a lot of work in legislative policy making. A lot of our moms go to state capitals to testify on behalf of bills that protect children or bills that, punish predators. We also do litigation work with our legal partners. And so for that reason, we have chosen not to be a 501c3 or a 501c3. It actually functions under my LLC as a business. And so we're very transparent about that. Our donors know that, and they are fine with donating to us despite not having a tax write-off.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what you find. If there's an actual need, we see on GiveSendGo most is peer-to-peer, right? Campaigns, and someone has a house fire or their child's sick or something happens. People are going to give and not say, oh, I'm not going to.
Right. Can I write it off?
I'm not going to get my $15 back, if that, from the government or whatever, And so, people want to give to things that are actually making a difference. And it sounds like this box is going to be a tool that could be used, like you said, at sheriff departments. I wasn't even thinking giving it to the Department of Family and Children in the different, different counties and cities across the country, that they have it when they rescue a child, that they immediately have some tools available.
Yeah, like there will be a teddy bear in there that it's going to have a shirt that says, well, you have a mom army behind you. Like I said, there will be, comfort items. There will be, we're creating a music playlist, that they can listen to that is uplifting and that could help build their self-esteem. So it's ever evolving there, continuously, but eventually we're hoping to have the prototype done within the next few weeks. And then we have a meeting with the board of the Family Advocacy Center to really kind of move this partnership along. But, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse to kind of start getting the message out there, getting the support, and we've had some really generous donations for the Hope Box already. Moms who have one of what our biggest donors on the platform is a friend who came to our recent gala. We did a recent gala to fundraise for the Hope Box, and she is looking to pass legislation here in Arizona. But her daughter, who's special needs, was sexually abused by a teacher's aide, and so she's one of our donors to the Hope Box. So it's bringing a lot of different people to the cause. And that makes me really happy that people are banding together to help support this.
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned that, oh, well, we're not a 501(c)(3) because this can be politicized. And that is just so
Mhm.
absurd when you actually think about it, like that we can't protect our children or speak up to protect our children. And no, and I understand, like these are not just simple, always like adult child cut and
Mhm.
dry, like siblings or cousins
Yep.
and now you have two children, one who might have been abused from somebody else, and that's why now they're acting out. And so you
Mhm.
have like layers here. This is not just always throw them in jail when you have a
Yep.
13 or 14-year-old kid and you have to work through that trauma within your family, but giving those resources and then to the victim, not downplaying it because you don't know what to
Mhm.
do with the perpetrator because he's still a kid
Right.
as well, right? Like
Right.
such a great start of providing hope. And again, I love
Yeah, and the conversation around it too. I mean, we have multiple members in our group that were sexually abused by their older sibling. And and every situation is so unique and so different, And what people need to also understand, that is actually the largest population of abuse. Something like about 40 to 50% of sexual abuse is peer-to-peer, is sibling to sibling or cousin to
murder
a
neighbor,
younger
yeah,
cousin. Yep.
same age,
Hmm.
same kind of age group.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so it does. It's not just this easy thing, that we can just
Hmm.
blanket. Like you said, every situation is different, but there needs to be something to help work through the trauma of it instead of,
Yeah.
like you said, brushing it under a rug or pretending it didn't happen or minimizing it because they're little or anything like that. It definitely
Hmm.
needs to be addressed. And then to be able to give comfort and validity to the child who
Yeah.
actually was
And
violated.
and that's what we were seeing with a lot of our survivor members is that, I mentioned that we just had a gala about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, um, here to raise money for the Hope Box. And one of our speakers is our Mom Army captain in Sacramento, California, Sabrina. She shared very intimately about the impact of the abuse on her as a mother, on how she was raising her 7 children, and how it impacted her along the way. And that's things that people don't know about, and she didn't really come to terms with her abuse until just last year, 30 some odd years later. And so, learning from her, just, the trauma that she's had to navigate over the last 3 decades. And what we want to do is offer healing as soon as possible, right? That people don't go through, 2, 3, 4 decades of struggling, in life, that they and I hate that the onus is on the victim, to fix this, because that's not what we're saying. But we want to give the tools available so that they can eventually get to a place where they have a full life, and that there is a brighter future ahead for them, despite what happened to them.
And that, that is the most powerful thing. Again, it's unfortunately bad things happen to us, and the only
Mhm.
thing we can control is ourselves. So a lot of times it feels like I shouldn't have to be fixing
Mhm.
this or working through it. But it's what we have to do. We have to work through our traumas. We have to work
Mm.
through the bad things that have happened, even if they weren't our fault, so that we can actually use the stories that we have to help in the world become a better
Yeah.
place. And it sounds like the moms on your team are doing that, saying, hey, I experienced this and I want
Hmm.
to use, it wasn't a great experience. I don't wish anybody to go through it, but I'm going to use my story to then help others, because I can really feel, I empathize for what's going on, because it happened to me too, you know. And so
Yeah.
I think that's uh
There's power in that, right? There's
there's power.
power in empowering people, right? I think that's the thing. It's like, you feel so powerless, and this is me not as a survivor. I was very fortunate. I was very protected growing up. My dad was a very much, a hawk
Yes.
over me and my sisters. But I think, when we can empower people to really live their purpose, again, not dismissing what happened, but taking what happened and empowering them to impact more people and to really share their story to help save more people.
Yep, exactly. I think that is so powerful. I see that you've raised about $2,700 on your campaign with a goal of
Mhm.
500. And I also see in the campaign that you say it's like $100 to sponsor a hope box. So you're saying, hey, give $100, you can sponsor a child getting this hope box.
Correct.
Are you just saying, okay, let's get 500 boxes to start with and see how long they last, how it goes? Is that kind of the
Yeah.
thought?
Yeah, and we'll adjust. I mean, obviously, in creating a box like this, when you order in bulk, it gets cheaper, right? And so this is just the initial start. I mean, my friend Andrea is a licensed. She's a certified art therapist. So she created a bunch of little art kits
Oh,
for
nice.
the kids, so that costs money, so we want to make sure that people who are contributing the box, that we can at least cover those expenses, and make sure that, and they're doing it and they're offering their service for free and their time for free and things like that. So as the project grows, we hope that we can lower that cost, that maybe it will be $50 per box as opposed to $100 per box. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So if you're watching today and you want to be a part, there's nothing too small that you can give. Um,
Mhm.
Come to GiveSendGo /hope box and hit the give now. Now, let's say money's tight this month and you're like, I don't think I can do it. We have a couple other things you can do to help out this campaign. Number one, we have a share button
Mhm.
that you can share this campaign and let other people know about this awesome initiative to get these boxes into the hands of child sex survivors and sexual abuse survivors. And I then underneath it is one of what we believe is one of the most important buttons on our site, and it's a pray button, because we believe
Mhm.
that great people coming together and praying makes a difference. And so even if you can't give money, and share the campaign, and also click that pray button and let the mom army know that they're not alone, that you're supporting them. Because sometimes, yes, we need the money to do this, but sometimes the encouragement to say, keep going. I know it might be
Yes.
tiring today. It might feel like they're not listening and the doors aren't opening. And does it really matter? Those thoughts come as you're building something. And your encouraging messages under that pray now button mean the world. We hear from people all the time that say, wow, I go in and I'll listen, I'll read the prayer buttons, prayer messages that people send saying, hey, listen, I'm praying for you, I'm behind you, you're not alone, what you're doing is amazing. And it just gives you the oomph to keep going.
Yep.
So click that pray button. We actually have a prayer team, a hope team we call it, at
Oh, I
GiveSendGo,
love that.
and they will call each campaign and offer to pray with them over what they're fundraising for. So have you gotten a prayer call from our hope team yet?
If I did, I didn't, I missed it.
Yeah, so
So
they
yeah,
would have
I'm
left you
looking
a
forward to that.
voicemail. They would have left you a voicemail, but if
Okay.
they might not have yet, because they're always just catching up. We have thousands of campaigns. They just
Yeah.
keep going. But they will be calling and they'll be saying, hey, we're from the Give Send Go Hope team. And we just wanted to let you know, we wanted to pray with you about whatever was
I
going on
love that.
today. And so, because we really do believe that hope is the most important thing. You can throw money at a situation all you
Mhm.
want, and if somebody still feels hopeless, we see it. We see rich people, famous people committing suicide because they felt
Mhm.
hopeless. They had all the money and the fame in the world. And so I think sharing hope, and is exactly what you're doing and what we want to do at GiveSendGo. So I know, what made you pick GiveSendGo? How had you heard about us? Was there a specific?
Yeah, we've used you for other campaigns. When we launched Mom Army and fundraised for our initially launching, we used GiveSendGo, and I've always recommended GiveSendGo. I mean, I had a friend, an artist, a musician, he's a rock artist, who was fundraising on GoFundMe, and they shut his fundraising down. So you saw it because of his political stance, because he was very outspoken about certain things. He was like over $100,000 in fundraising dollars, and they shut him down. And so just seeing friends and people in my realm that were being censored through some of these platforms, I am very much an advocate of the alternate economy, the parallel economy. And so we really try as a group and as an organization to support platforms, businesses that share our values, for protecting children, that share our values of freedom, family, and faith. And so for that reason, we couldn't go with anybody else but GiveSendGo.
Well, we're glad to hear that, because that is exactly what we're for. We are for everybody, even for people we disagree with, right? Like, imagine that novel concept where you can allow somebody on your platform that you might actually disagree with.
Yeah.
Obviously not illegal or harmful, but
The good old days,
the good
right?
old days,
When people
exactly.
didn't dehumanize other people. I think that's what we're seeing, and that's what's really disheartening. And we really want to be able to just support, people because they're doing good things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, like I said, we're very thankful that you did choose GiveSendGo. And I know you mentioned that you tell people to use GiveSendGo. So thank you. That is how we continue to stay in business and grow, and become better at sharing hope as well, and allowing people the freedom to fundraise for what's important to them, like for you. So if you're watching this and you want to be a part of this movement, how can they join the Mom Army? If there are moms watching and they're like, okay, I want to be part of Mom Army, Mom Army. Oh, is there a way that anybody that's a mom
Yeah.
can join? And how do you
Yeah,
do
and we actually have people who aren't moms. If you love children and you
that?
have that motherly,
Sure.
instinct, it doesn't matter. We have aunties in our group that don't have children. We're actually in the middle of redesigning our website, but you can still go to our website. It's mom-army.com. But we do a lot on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, send me a DM, send us a DM. We're very responsive there. I'm actually this week in the middle of onboarding a couple more leaders, one in Nevada, Hawaii, and Washington. So we're growing slowly, but we're really setting the foundation with really strong leaders so that we can support more moms who want to join the movement, because it's a spiritual war. I mean, that's what we see. We have a big fight ahead of us to really preserve and protect the innocence of children so that they have a brighter future. So that's, I wish we didn't have to exist, but we're here and we're here to do our part.
Yeah, no. And so go to Instagram, go to mom-army.com, did you say?
Yeah. And then Instagram is the.momarmy.
Join the Mom Army. Let's make this thing grow, where we say we're going to protect children. That should be a bipartisan no-brainer to protect children, in our world today. And then obviously people coming on and giving to your campaign, maybe you can't give $100 today.
Yeah.
Maybe you're watching and you're like, I
$5.
can't do the whole thing. You know what? You can give $5, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
help build a box. And on GiveSendGo, we have recurring donations. So maybe you say, I can give $5 a month. And so you say, you know what, I'm going to, for the next 12 months, give $5 a month or $10 a month, or maybe in 2025, give $25 a month. Whatever you can do, you could just go in and say, I'm going to continually support making new boxes so children can find some hope in some hard situations, because we all want to make a difference in this world. And protecting children and giving children a brighter future is the best way to do it. It's the best way for our future, as a country, and around the world is protect our children. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for what you've done. Thank you for coming on today and sharing with this. We definitely want to keep in touch and hear when you finally start giving out the boxes. We would love to have an update on how
Yeah,
that's
we'll
going.
definitely update on yeah, I love that your platform allows us to update. So we will be updating as things are moving forward. So we want donors to know that, things are progressing. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate you giving us a platform, a platform to fundraise, but also with with this podcast, a platform to get our message across.
And if you go to their campaign page, there's a place under updates that you can say follow, and they'll ask you for your email address. And then you put your email address in, and whenever an update is posted, you'll get an email saying, hey, the Hope Box just put an update. So you can go and check it out and follow along with what's going on. Again, visit this campaign. There's a video as the header. Every dollar matters in protecting our children. So is there any last things that you would like to say to our audience, maybe something that they need to know, or ways that they can get involved? What if they say how do I get this in my department near me,
Mhm.
or I work in child protective services and I want to have this, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Is there a way besides just joining the Mom Army, is there other ways that people can contact you to say, hey, I have an idea or I want to be a part of this?
Yeah, shoot us a DM on Instagram or shoot us an email. I try to have our team be very responsive to that. But yeah, I hope that that's how this grows, that people come to this, finding creative ways to be involved with the project. We would love for this to grow in all the different ways and to accommodate that. But my last message and thought, as I've been doing this work for, almost 15 years now, is I realize like the trauma that we are seeing all around us, a lot of it stems from child sexual abuse. I don't think people understand how rampant this abuse is and how much it's impacting what's happening all around us. And when I see survivors who are dealing with drug addiction, they're dealing with suicide ideation, they're dealing with just a lot of struggles in life in general. A lot of it stems from these childhood sexual abuse situations. And so it is really important to work on the prevention side of this and educating parents on what to look out for and how to prevent this and how to keep their children safe. But also, how do we support those that have to navigate their healing journey? And that's what we want to be, that glimmer of hope to help with that.
And I'm sure there's people like me who went and watched that movie, The Sound of Freedom, that came out,
Mm-hmm.
and that walked away from that going, okay, I need to do something.
Right.
Going, but I don't know even how to start, right? Like, how do I do I have to go into the jungles? Like, how do I figure this out? Because the US is one of the biggest sex
Yeah.
trafficking places. And it's like you go, how can I help? And this is such a great way to be able to help.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, you'd be impacting a child directly. And I think
exactly.
that's what I love about how the project came to be is, this problem is so big and people do get paralyzed thinking like, where do I start? How do I help? And I think what this does is give you a tangible way to impact one life, or several lives, so yeah, so I think we're really proud as a team. It's a very personal project to a lot of us. And we hope to see this project grow over the years and gain more support as it becomes something that is very much needed. We see it with our survivor moms. We see it with the population that we work with.
Well, thanks again for coming on. It was great chatting with you. And everybody who's watching, please go to givesendgo.com/hope box. Give, share, pray, follow so that you can get the updates, because you're going to want to hear more about this as they continue to grow. And maybe there'll be hope boxes in your community one day. And that is the goal. That would be an amazing thing for each one of us to be like, oh yes, we know about hope boxes. They're right down at the center. I can go grab one if I need one. And so again, not a great thing to have to be dealing with, but unfortunately we do. So we bring the best, and the best is providing hope. And so thank you again for coming on. Everybody who's watching, thanks for tuning in again to one of our Shine Brightly podcasts, where people all over the world are stepping out and doing things that shine and make a little bit of a difference. Because if we all make a little difference, we can end up seeing the world changed. So keep shining brightly.
Thank you.